Hello and welcome everybody to a new StudyMonster video series. In this series of videos we're going to be looking at all things Python. It's an ideal series of videos for those wanting to learn Python programming or for students currently studying GCSE Computer Science at school. So whether you're just starting out, brushing up on your skills before your exams, we're going to help you code smart, think logically and level up your programming skills. So what is Python then? So Python is a high-level programming language. It means that it's written in a way that's easy for humans to read and for computers to understand. It's known for its simplicity, its power and its versatility. And unlike some other programming languages that look a lot like maths equations, Python reads almost like plain English. You can write out a Python code and give it to a generic person on the street and they'll be able to read through Python and they'll have a decent idea about what the program should or what it might be doing. So why even bother learning Python in the first place? Well, it's used everywhere. You cannot escape Python's grasp. It's used on websites, it's used on AI and machine learning like ChatGPT, it's used in YouTube algorithms, it's used on Reddit, it's used on education. For example, when it comes to computer science, it's one of the first programming languages that students learn. It's one of the easiest programming languages to get your head around, which then lead on to other programming languages, kind of like a gateway to more advanced not advanced programming languages, but more programming languages like your C++, your C#, and so on and so forth. So thinking about why Python is so simple then and why it's used as one of these beginner programs, why do people start learning Python? So let's have a look at a little simple example here of a print function. So print with open and close parentheses is a built-in Python function that displays text to the screen. I like to think of it as a way of allowing your program to speak to you. So the text hello world that you can see on line 2, which is green inside of quotation marks, that's what we call a string. And we're going to look at a table in a minute. And if you look in the comments, if you look in the description of the video, there's a little download sheet that you can download and save for future reference when it comes to data types. So this print function here will output the hello world to the screen in one line of code. The line above it, line 1, is a comment, and we're going to talk about that in today's video as well. Now, if we take a different programming language like C++, which is a very, very effective, very powerful programming language, we can see that just doing that simple hello world, printing that out to the screen, takes a lot more code to achieve that one function. Now, that's not taking anything away from C++. C++ is an incredibly powerful and very worthwhile programming language to learn, but you can see why Python is much more simple and beginner friendly when it comes to learning to program. So like I mentioned earlier, this sheet is available to download if you want to download it and save it to your computer. But a little bit of housekeeping, data types is something that we're going to be talking about a lot in programming and in Python in particular. I'm not going to talk all the way through this, I'll quickly skim through it. Strings is something we're going to be looking at today. That is a sequence of characters that could be letters, numbers, symbols, things like that, enclosed in quotation marks. Integers, which you'll be used to in maths, or whole numbers, and this could be a minus as well. Floating point numbers, so these are decimal points. Boolean, which is logical values, true or false. And then lists, so lists could be a combination of other data types, so we might have a list with a string in there, with an integer in there, with a floating point number in there as well. So that's enough talking, let's get coding. Right, so let's get straight into some programming. So let's start where every programmer begins, with the print function. Print function, and I'm just going to get it up on the screen here. So the print function, simply all lowercase word print, and every function in Python starts with an open parenthesis and a closed parenthesis, so curly brackets. Now, basically, print function is a built-in function within Python, so there's code behind that. Now, what happens is when we put an argument or something inside of these curly brackets, the print function will be called, and it will output in the instance of the print function, whatever it is that we put inside of them parentheses. Now, by default, if we just were to run this print function, it will just give us a blank line because there's nothing inside of it for it to output. So the print function is all about getting information out if you program it. It allows your program to speak to you. So if I run this program, it's going to run perfectly fine. But if you look down the bottom here, we've got this one blank line at the minute because it's just waiting for an output. But what will happen is we'll get an additional blank space with nothing inside of it because there's nothing. So we've run it once, it's finished, and we've got this blank line here. So that is the output of this. So basically outputting nothing. So we could do that again, and you will see that we get 2 blank lines down the bottom. So we've got 1, 2 blank lines, as well as our waiting for the next output, but there's nothing on the 3rd line, so it's the program effectively finishes. Now, print functions in Python are, like I said at the beginning, print functions got code behind it that is instructing the computer on what to do. Now, as we go through these series of videos, you are going to be making your own functions. So when you learn about selection and iteration, and different things like this, you are going to be packaging up and creating your own functions that you can call. So you will get used to providing arguments within functions. So an argument in the print function might be just getting it to print out a string value. So don't forget that there is a free data types download in the description that you can download and keep. But if we were going to print the sentence, hello StudyMonsters, this is going to print out to our console down here. So it's calling the print function, and it's just going to print out a straightforward string. So if we run that code now, we've got hello StudyMonsters printed out in our console down the bottom. So we could do multiple prints. So we could say, I really hope you enjoy this series. So we're going to run that, and we've got 2 outputs down the bottom. So when it comes to outputting multiple lines, you don't have to do them by calling it one at a time. So what we could do, there's another way of printing, is we can do print. And in fact, what I'll do is I'll edit the lines above. So we've got print functions on 2 lines. So what we can do is get rid of the closing bracket at the end of line 1, leave the one at the end of line 2, and get rid of the beginning calling the function on line 2. So we've got print, open parenthesis, quotation mark, hello StudyMonsters, and you can see that's gone green. So it knows that it's expecting a string now, but then it goes all wrong down here. So another method of printing on multiple lines is to provide it with 3 quotation marks, but make sure you end in with 3 as well. So we're basically saying we've got 3 quotation marks here, so we're going to be printing on multiple lines now. So what Python will do is it'll look at where we've manually entered a return, and now we're saying, right, I would like to print the next bit of string on the next line down. So if I run that code, you will see we've got hello StudyMonsters, and we've got the line straight down the bottom. Now if I was to get rid of them and go back to 1 string, that's not going to work. If I was to put it on 1 line, that is just going to print out 1 big sentence. And if I wanted it on 2 lines, I'm going to have to either create a separate print, call a separate print function like we did originally, or I'm going to have to provide it with 3 quotation marks to show Python that I actually want something on 2 lines, not just 1. So other ways that we can join strings together. So instead of printing out on, if we want to print out multiple strings, so if you remember back at the beginning, I talked about arguments. So we can join strings together within a print statement. So if we were to do print, open a bracket, start our quotation marks, and say this is my first sentence, and then we want to join it with something else, we can use the plus symbol, just like we do in math. So if we want to add two things together, we use the plus symbol, and we can do that in Python. So using the plus and then creating another string, we can say this is my second sentence. So now if I'm going to stick a blank print in there just so it looks a little bit more easier to read down in the console. So if I run that code now, it's run our first line of code, hello StudyMonsters. It's run our second line of code, I really hope you enjoy this series. It's then printed out a blank line for us to separate it just so it's easy to read. And then we've got our fourth line of code that says this is my first sentence plus this is my second sentence. Now if you look at this output here, and you can pause the video at this point and just see if you can spot the mistake, the deliberate mistake here, or the problem with using this plus symbol to join these two sentences together. Right, so if we zoom in down here, we can see that at the end of the first string, so this is my first sentence, then it immediately starts, this is my second sentence, but there's no space in between these two strings. So there's a few different ways you can fix this. You could either manually add in a space at the end of this first string, or, and I'll run that just to show you what happens. So we can see down here now, we've now got the space in there. Or alternatively, we could put it in the beginning of the second one, or we could just add in a space altogether. So we can do another quotation mark with a space, close our quotation marks, and then use an additional plus symbol, which will give us the same impact down here. So this is my first sentence with a space, which is here. This is my second sentence. So this is a way of concatenating or joining strings together. Now there is another way. So back at the beginning, I mentioned arguments. So every function you can put arguments inside of these parentheses, these curly brackets. So if I do I'll do it underneath here. So if we do another blank print, just so we can read it a bit easier down here like before, and then I'm going to print another sentence. So we'll say, hello, my name is StudyMonster, close our speech marks, and arguments are separated by commas. So when it comes to joining, and in the next video we're going to be looking at variables and what variables are. They're very, very powerful and allow you to build very complex programs. Now pluses, so the addition symbol, and commas are two different ways of joining things together. Now we're not just talking about joining a string. This could equally, and it's going to make more sense in the next video, be joining variables to a print statement. So hello, my name is StudyMonster, followed by a comma, means that this is our first argument, and then we're going to have a second argument. So comma, and then we'll do another sentence. Python is awesome, exclamation mark. So this is the first argument inside of this print function, and then the comma tells Python that we've actually got a second argument in this print function, which is Python is awesome, which is just another string. But like I said, as we go through the videos, these arguments will become more complex. So if we run this code now, it's going to print all of our normal stuff up. But if you take a minute and just pause the video here, in fact what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of this line and just go back to our original using the plus and press run again. If you pause the video here and just see what the plus does in terms of this line of code where there is no space, and then just have a look at the next line of code and see what the comma's doing. So hopefully you can all see that on the second line of code, so line number 6, you called the print function. We've got our first argument, hello, my name is StudyMonster, comma, and then we've got our second argument. Now down the bottom, using that comma, as Python has automatically put a space in. So commas will automatically put a space in if you're joining two strings or a variable, and pluses will not. They will join things together. They will add things next to each other, for want of a better word. So basic print functions there. So the next thing I'll need you all to get used to is commenting. So commenting is a hugely important part of programming. Now, especially if you're a student studying GCSE, you might get questions talking about maintainability of code. Now, commenting is a really easy way of maintaining your code. Comments are just lines in your programming file that explain what's going on. So if I was to do a hashtag signifies and tells Python, ignore everything that comes on this line after this symbol, and this is just a comment. So if I was to type in the words, this is a comment, and run this, Python is just going to completely ignore that line of code. This line of text here, it's going to completely ignore it and move on to the next one. So hello StudyMonsters. So it's skipped this line. There's nothing on line 2, so it's gone down to line 3 and it's printed hello StudyMonsters. Now, comments, like I said, really, really important. They don't have to be on their own line. So we could put a comment after some code on a line. So we could say on this one, for example, hashtag or comment, this line or this print function uses commas to join strings. So we've said if some programmer was coming along and looking at my code, they could read this and go, right, this is what this line of code's doing. You might get into a situation when you were working on code, you're not going to start and finish a piece of code in a day. If you could be working on a piece of code or a program for many days, for many weeks, for many months. Now, you might be working on one particular part of that, come back to it the next day, come back to it the next week, the next month. You might open up someone else's code that you've been asked to fix, asked to look at, and you might not remember exactly what you were doing at that time, the thought process you had when you were first building this program. So comments can help you go back and think, right, well, this is why I've done this code like this because of these reasons, or this is what my thinking was at this time. So comments are really, really important. So very, very short episode 1. I just wanted to do a very quick introduction to Python, why we should learn it. Like I said at the very beginning, it's a gateway. It's a very, very easy to understand programming language. It uses English words. Print, obviously, an average person reading this code would say, oh well, I'm expecting it to print, so output hello StudyMonsters. You generally get the gist of it, which can help you lead you on to others once you get the logic, once you get used to writing code. So print function can be on one line. Functions themselves are called. All functions will have parentheses at the end of them. We can put arguments inside of these parentheses. In the example that we've just used string values. We've used the plus symbol to join two strings together, but this will not include spaces, so we've got to manually enter these spaces. We've also used the comma to concatenate and join strings together. The comma does automatically include spaces. And then we've used the hashtag to include some comments on our code. So what I would like you to do now, as an extension of this, thinking about what you've looked at and what you've learned today, in the description there is a free download for the data types, a little help sheet that you can keep for reference as we go through. And there's also a little sheet, a downloadable PDF there with some little programming challenges on. Please feel free to have a go at them programming challenges. Post your results in the comments. Any questions, just let me know. And remember, like and subscribe for more videos. We've got Python programming series. We've got the Welsh board series up and running. We are looking at OCR Computer Science theory side of things, and also OCR Creative Eye Media. So please check back often, like and subscribe for more videos like this one, and I will see you in the next one. Bye for now.